Hi, this is Dr. Rickert. This lecture is about reinforcement and punishment, and I wanted to do this because when I teach my theories of learning class, a lot of students have difficulty with these terms because they're used in a way that is not how you would normally use them. These terms were first defined by B.F. Skinner, and it's his definitions that we're going to be using. So there are four terms that you need to know: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment. And the most important thing is that the words positive and negative are not what you think. Most people think positive is good and negative is bad, but Skinner is not most people. He decided to completely change the meaning of positive and negative. So to Skinner, positive means you give something to someone, to the animal or to the human or whoever you're trying to change their behavior. And negative means you take something away. So if you present a stimulus to the animal, the first word is positive. If you take away a stimulus, the first word is negative. If the behavior on which the stimulus is contingent increases, the second word is reinforcement. So if you want the behavior to increase, you're going to be using reinforcement. And by definition, by Skinner's definition at least, if the behavior does increase, then it is considered reinforcement. But notice it's the behavior on which the stimulus is contingent. So it's only if the animal has to do that behavior to get the stimulus, and then that behavior increases, it's considered reinforcement. If the behavior decreases, the second word is punishment. So now we're going to put this all together. This table is very similar to a table that's in the textbook. If you present a stimulus and the behavior increases, that's called positive reinforcement. And most people do know what positive reinforcement is, and it's what you think it is. Positive reinforcement is roughly similar to what we mean by the word reward. So if you pay somebody to do something, and therefore they do it, that's positive reinforcement. You're giving them a stimulus, the money, and the behavior is increasing. Whatever behavior you're paying them for will increase. On the other hand, something that's not as obvious, the thing that people have the most difficulty with, is negative reinforcement. If you remove a stimulus and the behavior increases, that's negative reinforcement. A lot of people think negative reinforcement is like punishment because they have the word negative there. Oh, it's something bad. But it's not. It's where you essentially reward somebody by taking something away. So you take away the stimulus, and that is reinforcing to them. Their behavior will increase. And one of the best examples of negative reinforcement is when you take a pill to get rid of a headache. So you are presenting a stimulus, the pill, and it's reinforcing the person by taking something away. It's taking away the headache. So a good way to think about negative reinforcement is if you think of the word escape or avoidance. If you use a stimulus to escape something, so like you take a pill to escape from your headache, that is negative reinforcement. Also, if you would use the word avoidance, maybe you take a pill to avoid getting a headache. So negative reinforcement is essentially when the animal does something to avoid something or to escape from something. If you present a stimulus and the behavior decreases, that is positive punishment. And you might say, well, how can punishment be positive? Punishment is bad. But remember, positive does not mean good. It just means you're presenting a stimulus. So the stimulus could be something bad. It could be, say, a shock. If a rat is pressing a lever and you shock it, it will stop pressing the lever. That is called positive punishment. And then finally, stimulus removed and the behavior decreases, that's negative punishment. So a good example of that is if somebody has to pay a fine. You're taking money away from them, and as a result, their behavior will decrease. So if somebody was speeding and they have to pay a fine, you're taking the stimulus away, you're taking the money away, and hopefully their speeding will decrease. And if it does decrease, that's called negative punishment. So now I just want to go through a few more examples and see if you can figure out what they are. So I'm going to present you with a question, and let's see if you can figure out what it is. Try to figure it out before I give you the answer, because that way you'll learn it better. Okay. So let's say you give a child a cookie after she eats her broccoli. So you want to increase her broccoli eating by giving her a cookie. What would that be? Well, you're presenting a stimulus, the cookie, and you want the broccoli eating to increase. So it would be positive reinforcement. You're presenting the stimulus and the behavior should increase. Here's something a little more difficult. Suppose you're nagging your child until they eat their broccoli. So you nag them, and then when they eat their broccoli, you stop nagging them. What would that be? Well, in this case, you're removing a stimulus. You're nagging them, and when they do the behavior, you take away the stimulus, you stop nagging them. So you're increasing their broccoli eating by taking away a stimulus, so it's negative reinforcement. It's negative because you take away the nagging after they eat the broccoli. The removal of the nagging is contingent on their eating the broccoli. The only way they can get rid of that nagging is to eat their broccoli. So they will do a behavior, they will increase a behavior to get rid of a stimulus. They want to avoid your nagging by eating the broccoli. Suppose the child eats a cookie and she wasn't supposed to eat it, so you spank her. So you spank a child for eating a cookie. What would that be? That would be called positive punishment, even though you might say, well, that's a really bad thing to do. No, under Skinner's definition, it's still called positive punishment because positive doesn't mean it's good. Positive means you presented a stimulus. In this case, the stimulus is the spanking. And you want the girl to decrease eating the cookies, so it's considered punishment if she does decrease eating the cookies. And then finally, if you take away a child's toy because she ate a cookie, what would that be? That would be negative punishment. You're punishing her for doing something she shouldn't. You want her to stop eating the cookies, and you do it by taking something away. So you take away something she wants, and she hopefully will stop eating the cookies, and that is considered negative punishment.